Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is Reganelite here with another episode of the Snowflake Corner, episode 21, guys. Yes, 21 in. How are you all doing? It is the weekend. It is Friday, the 12th of April. The time of this recording, is at 8:15 a.m. for reference UK time. First and foremost, my sincere apologies for those who were expecting a live stream tonight. I forgot I'd made plans, so I'm not going to be home. I'm not going to be home this weekend for quite till late Sunday. So I do have some content prepped for Monday anyway. But I'm not going to be here Friday evening, so that means I'm not going to be able to. I'm not going to be here able to do a live stream for you guys. So I do apologize. I generally forgot. I only realised yesterday that about that. So we've still got a show for you. I've still got a show for you. Still got your funny memes. Still got a funny video. I've only got 6 articles for you. Obviously, we'll see how long the show goes. So Ollie, the lava lamp, and the Orb is here tonight. They are here tonight. The only difference is obviously I can't talk to you guys in the chat, which is the only downside to the show, which is obviously what we normally do. So apologies for that, guys. So let's dive straight into what's been happening outside the UK, guys. So this first one, guys, is from Al Jazeera, with the headline of Polish lawmakers are debating reforming strict abortion laws. Poland has some of the strictest abortion laws in the European Union. I mean, like, I've said this so many times, guys, because we've obviously talked about the situation, obviously, in America with Roe v. Wade being abolished, women's rights being taken away from them, and Poland, obviously, having one of the strictest laws in the European Union. So perhaps maybe they're looking at potentially easing the strict abortion laws that they have. At least they have those laws in place, is what I would say. At least they have people to abort. Obviously, you have to jump through a few hoops for women in Poland, which can be a bit annoying, to say the least. But at least they have them. Whereas, obviously, I think in America, I just feel like they have barely any rights whatsoever. I just think women should be given more of a choice of being able to do it. Obviously, there should be lots of consultation, consulting doctors and whatnot around their situation about why they want an abortion in the first place. I think it obviously should never be straightforward. There should be consultations and discussions, not just with family, but with doctors and perhaps even psychiatrists or whatever, of the reasons behind why you want an abortion. They need to be, these kind of things need to matter, because obviously in the words of those who feel, because obviously people see it as them killing a baby, when in fact it's, for me, it's, yes, it is a baby being formed inside the mother's womb, but also it is a woman's body, and the woman's body a woman should be able to decide whether they want to have that baby or not. Obviously, if you're in a couple, it obviously should be a joint decision, but it is a debate that will never, I don't think, will ever go away, because some people believe that they're killing babies, that women are killing babies by having abortions. But my general consensus is that it should be down to that person's choice whether they want to have that baby or not, regardless of how they have that baby, whether it's consensual, non-consensual, rape, or in whatever the situation should be. It should always be down to the person having that baby, whether they want to have that, having the baby, whether they want to choose to give birth to it or not. And I think that's a really, really, really important perspective to make when we're talking about this, guys. So let's read a bit into this. So lawmakers in Poland have begun debating changes to the country's harsh abortion laws that have grown more restrictive during the 8 years of conservative nationalist governments. Liberalising access to abortion has been a central campaign promise of Prime Minister Donald Tusk and his civic coalition that emerged victorious in elections in October that saw high turnout, partly due to women's rights issues. The country has some of the strictest abortion laws in the European Union, only allowing a woman to have an abortion in cases where the pregnancy has resulted from rape or incest, or if it threatens the life or health of the mother. These are very, very strong. So in Poland, obviously, the choice is so based of that. Pretty much is saying is that if you get drunk and knocked up and you end up having a baby, that's your own fault. Lawmakers are expected to debate multiple bills that have been put forward by coalition groups. Some have sought to make the abortion legal without limitations until 12 weeks of pregnancy, while one bill looks to reinstate the right of abortions in case of foot-no abdominal knees, which would effectively return Poland to the situation before 2020, when the Constitutional Court ruling had banned such procedures, while keeping the most current restrictions in place. It is widely expected that the President Azar al-Duri, a conservative ally of the former right-wing government, will veto any changes to the legislation. He vetoed a law last month that would have allowed the over-the-counter access to emergency birth control pills for women and girls aged 15 or higher. Thursday's Parliament session follows a pressure from activist groups and women's rights campaigners who have staged many rallies over the years against tightening abortion rules. Women have also been restricting the draconian laws by using networks to access abortion pills and procedures. Here's the thing: like women will go out of their way to get what they need to get if you're not going to give them what they need, even if it means breaking the law. In March, right-wing Parliament Speaker Simon Hozier decided to postpone the debates after the local elections last weekend. This has caused some anger among activists and coalition partners in Parliament. Authorities in Poland have come under increasing pressure over abortion laws after multiple women died in cases linked with abortion complications. That's terrible. See, when it comes when it means that obviously women are dying because of the laws in place, that's when alarm bells should be ringing. Alarm bells should be ringing at the top of the lungs. Yeah, when when there's complications regarding this, guys. Even legal abortions are often difficult to get in Poland because doctors and hospitals administrations are unsure about the rules or refuse to perform terminations based on their own beliefs in the predominant Catholic country. In the case of sexual assault, women face the additional stigma of having to publicise the crime by reporting it to the prosecutor's office to be determined eligible for legal abortion. This feels extremely harsh that you have to publicise the fact that you've been sexually assaulted. That feels really harsh. It should be a case of it should be kept private, but reported like undisclosed of some sorts to the police, so it doesn't become public, but it actually becomes. But the crime is there, but the police are aware of the crime, but it's not out for the public for everyone to know, sort of thing. I don't know. It's just. It's a very frustrating one. It's a very frustrating one. Now, obviously, I don't know the laws around I don't know the legalities about Poland's abortions, but what I do know is that I've said this before and I say this again about how important it is that women have that freedom to be able to choose for themselves. And so it even says here, guys, that the president is going to veto any changes. So my question is, what do you do then? What are you supposed to do if you have a president that's not even going to change, that's not even going to follow what people want, even if the people wanted it? What are you supposed to do if the president's just going to veto it? Because I don't see what the change is going to be. What's the impact going to be? What's the difference maker going to be there? I really don't. If the president is just going to veto it, what's the? Sounds like a change in president is needed then. We'll move on from that, guys. The next one is from the Association Press. We're going across to Asia continent. It's regarding China here. So China are sanctioning 2 US defense companies and say they support arms sales to Taiwan. So there is obviously there are relationships in between America and China when it comes to certain things, not just simple trade and whatnot, but also sometimes even in weapons and defenses and whatnot, secret deals that we don't always know about. So 2 US defense companies, obviously, who have been working with China, have working relationship with China, but also apparently have a working relationship with Taiwan, and China don't agree with that. You should not be supporting arms sales to Taiwan. So, if they obviously have work inside China, it obviously makes sense for China to sanction them. But This is a sign of once again China saying basically, stop helping Taiwan and leave us to our own decisions, sort of thing. Yeah, not going away. The China Taiwan situation is not going away anytime soon, people. So China on Thursday announced rare sanctions against two U.S. defense companies over what it called their support for arms sales to Taiwan. The self-governing island democracy, Beijing claims it has its own territory to be recovered by force if necessary. The announcement freezes the assets of General Atomics aerial systems and General Dynamics land systems held within China. It also bars the company's management from entering the country. Fillings show General Dynamic operations, half a dozen Gulfstreams and jet aviation service operations in China, which remain heavily reliant on foreign aerospace technology, even if it attempts to build its own presence in the field. The company also helps make the Abrams tank being purchased by Taiwan to replace outdated armor intended to deter or resist an invasion from China. The General Automatics procedure, the Predator and Reaper drones used by the US military. Chinese authorities did not go into details on the company's alleged involvement with supplying arms to Taiwan. Beijing has long threatened such sanctions, but has rarely issued them as its economic reels from the COVID-19 pandemic, high unemployment and a sharp decline in foreign investment. The continued US arms sales to China's Taiwan region seriously violates the One China principle and the provisions of the Free China-US joint communities, interfering in China's internal affairs, and undermines China's sovereignty and territorial integrity. This is what China's foreign ministry said in a statement. It insisted that the mainland and the island of which Chiang Kai-shek's nationalist forces fled amid the civil war in 1949 remain part of a single Chinese nation. Sanctions were leveled under Beijing's recently enacted Law of the People's Republic of China on countering foreign sanctions, aimed at retaliating against US financial and travel restrictions on Chinese officials accused of human rights abuses in mainland China and Hong Kong. General Dynamics fully owns entities are registered in Hong Kong, the southern Chinese semi-autonomous city over which Beijing has steadily been increasing its political and economic control to the point that it faces no vocal opposition and has been seen its critics silenced, imprisoned, or forced into exile. The two companies did not immediately respond to requests for comment. China has threatened action against foreign companies and governments that aid Taiwan's defense and the US military presence in the region, leading to commercial boycotts and diplomatic standoffs. China banned American firms Lockheed Marine Corp and Raytheon Missile and Defense from the Chinese market in retaliation for its use over one of its plans and a missile to shoot down a suspected spy balloon that flew over the continental United States last year. Similar balloons have frequently been discovered floating over Taiwan and into the Pacific Ocean. Yeah, so last year I remember I was talking about these spy balloons, and they were trying to say that they weren't spying; they were just flew off course, guys. They just flew off course. That's it. They just flew off course. The spy balloons. They just flew off course. It's what China were trying to reiterate, which is like, yeah, we're not going to buy that, and the US shoot them down. Gave the order to shoot them down, which China was not happy about. Well, you shouldn't have let them go and flown into US territory then, really. Despite lack of formal diplomatic ties, a concession Washington made to Beijing when they established relations in 1979, the US remains Taiwan's most important source of diplomatic support and supplies of military hardware from fighter jets to air defense systems. Taiwan has also been investing heavily in its own defense industry, procurement philosophy? I don't know what that word means. Missiles and submarines. China has had 14 warplanes and 6 Navy ships operating around Taiwan on Wednesday and Thursday, with 6 of the aircraft crossing into Taiwanese airspace identification zone. Attack to test Taiwan's defense, wear down its capabilities, and intimidate the population. And so far, this has had little effect, with the vast majority of the island's 23 million people opposing political unification with China. And like I said, this story is going to rumble on and on and on between China and Taiwan. While it's all like America at the moment is kind of all over the place. You know, I do feel a part of me feels like America is really, really stretched out at the moment, guys. It's really stretched out with where they are, because they're obviously they're supporting Israel, then they're supporting the Philippines and supporting Taiwan with what's happening over in South China Sea and in Taiwan, respectively. Obviously, with regards to China wanting Taiwan and uniting China into one nation. um, and obviously it's America's influence around the world is quite vast, and it does feel like, to me, a part of me feels like that the US is stretching quite a lot, and I wonder how much of that is I wonder how much of that they can actually continue to do. Like, if China generally does, I did predict a while ago, I think that Xi Jinping will go to war with China before his time is up as premier. He will not want to. He will want to be remembered as He will want to be remembered as the leader that united China as one nation. He will want to do that. The question is, when China does, whether it is by force or by diplomatic relations. The question is, will the US step in? If they go in by force, in particular, will the US step in? Will they step in and engage with China? And I think that's a really good question, because if all hell breaks loose in other parts of the world, like with Russia, or in the Middle East, if all hell breaks loose in the Middle East, are America going to be there to support Taiwan? Because if conflicts take place in other parts of the world, are the US going to react if China decides to take advantage of the situation while America's distracted and go after Taiwan? See, this is the thing. Will they do that? I'm not 100% sure, guys. I'm really not 100% sure. But the tension is very, very high still between the two nations, isn't it? Isn't it, Ollie? Yeah, Ollie thinks Ollie agrees with me. He thinks Xi Jinping will not let Taiwan continue all the way up to his time. I don't think it's going to happen this year. I don't think he's going to invade this year, but I think he will wait for the right time, where if the world is distracted and eyes are going on elsewhere, and America is distracted by other major incidences, then I think China may consider going for it, because their diplomatic way of getting Taiwan is no longer there because of what happened in the January elections. So, yeah, it's one that's going to go away, and yeah, I really do worry for the people of Taiwan. I really do, guys. The next one I've got for you guys is from CNN, an interesting one to say the least. So, it's coming with regards to drug-related issues. So, Mexican drug gangs are increasingly targeting Australia as meth supplies overtake rivals, police say. So, this is obviously in Australia. Mexican drug gangs obviously, look, from the sounds of it, it sounds like they're trying to expand their influence. Obviously, I do think that drug gangs in Mexico do have connections or ties, shall we say, to those in South America that allows them to try to get their drugs not just in Mexico, but obviously try to get it across the border into America, where they can make the most profit. And obviously, it seems to be they're trying to get into Australia here as well, from the looks of it. So, drug cartels from North America have overtaken rivals in Southeast Asia to become Australia's top supplier of methamphetamine. I'm not going to be able to say that. Methamphetamine, police said, warning that Mexican gangs are increasingly targeting the country. The Australian Federal Police and overseas authorities seized 23.6 tons of North American produced meth from Australia in the 2022-2023 financial year. 23.6 tons of meth. Wow, that's a lot. Jeez. That's a lot, guys. That's crazy. The AFP said in a statement last week, products from Mexico, the United States, and Canada make up at least 70% of the meth found in Australia. Is that a surprise? Are we not surprised that it's not coming more from other Asian countries, maybe? From other Asian countries? No, we shouldn't be surprised, actually. I guess we shouldn't be. Meanwhile, Southeast Asian meth fell to less than 20% of the seizures of the drugs, a highly addictive and potent stimulant. Police did not specify the exact amount originating from Mexico, but warned Mexican cartels are increasingly targeting America. Well, if you're getting 70% of it from Mexico, United States, and Canada, I mean, obviously, most of the drugs originating from Mexico, does it not? And then obviously they tried to grow it in Mexico and America and Canada when they get it in there. That's what they tried to do, right? Because it's much easier to sell then. But I do wonder how they tried to ship it, obviously, from those countries to Australia. One thing Australia has they do have a very, very strong system when it comes to letting things in and out of the country. But it appears obviously I'm assuming that some of it still get through somehow. Australia remains an enticing market for organised crime groups which explore our people to deter large profits, Police Commander Jado Taggart said in a statement. While cannabis remains the most common illegal drug consumed in the country by a large margin, the use of meth and amphetamine, another nerve stimulant, has risen among younger drug users, according to Australian Institute of Health and Welfare. A wastewater detection program led by Australian Central Criminal Intelligence Commission projected meth to be Australia's second most used drugs. For years, most meth in the region has come from manufacturers in the Golden Triangle, a remote jungle zone where the borders of Thailand, Lagos, and Myanmar meet. Yeah, this is initially what my first thought was, is that it would come from Asia, where most of their drugs would be tried to be trafficked in, rather than from America, Mexico, and Canada. The substance is then trafficked to other major companies in the region, such as Japan, New Zealand, and Australia, where police have busted a consistent stream of meth smuggling into the country in increasingly creative ways. In 2022, authorities stopped 1.8 tons of liquid meth masquerade as coconut water in Hong Kong before it reached Australia. The following year, police intercepted 1.1 tons of meth mixed with shampoo products. Target attributed the increase in Mexican imports to the cartel's strength in covering their tracks, as well as them undercutting their rivals on price. A kilogram, 2.2 pounds of wholesale meth from Mexico can cost as little as 1,000 Australian dollars, less than a third of the price of Myanmar-made meth, according to Australian police. Additionally, the AFP and our global partners have arrested and prosecuted key members of a significant Asian organised crime syndicate in October 2020 and January 2021, he said, referring to Sam Gore, a group that dominates the Asian Pacific drug trade. Terry Goldsworthy, associated criminology professor at Bond University in Queensland, called meth a drug of concern for Australia, adding that developments in some states may make the country more attractive to drug gangs. Last year, the Australian Capital Territory decriminalised possession of small amounts of hard drugs, meaning people caught with the substance face fines and counselling rather than jail terms, while Queensland introduced a free strike system. These states have effectively put up the open for business sign to the criminal cartels in relation to the drug market, he said. Criminologist John Fresco from the University of Melbourne said the surge may have been caused by a drug dump with supplies from North America's drug cartel to Europe's hamstrung by Russia's war in Ukraine and other factors. Mexican meth might just be getting dumped here because of the changes in other markets, he said. Drugs from North America are also reaching neighbouring New Zealand. Last year, New Zealand police seized the country's biggest ever meth haul, worth $150 million, hidden in jugs and maple syrup from Canada. Wow, talk about creativity ways. Trying all sorts of ways to get it in, aren't they? They were bound for New Zealand, Australia, and the surrounding Pacific region, police said. But Southeast Asian suppliers could bounce back from their loss of market share, according to Mansu Kalampur, regional representative of the Southeast Asia and the Pacific of the United States Office on Drugs and Crime. Our analysis shows that overall meth from the Golden Triangle has not slowed down, and Australia will continue to be one of the major destinations for organised crime groups operating in Asia, he said. These groups have shown a strong ability to adapt and diversity, and we are currently seeing very low prices in some parts of the region. This is an ongoing battle that Australia will have when it comes to drugs, but it obviously seems like an increasing attempt now is to try and get it is not just obviously from the likes of Taiwan and Myanmar and whatnot, but obviously trying to get it. Obviously, they've been increasing these cartels, obviously looking at other ways of trying to get it in, coming from other countries as well, to try and get it into Australia. But they are very, very good at Australia trying to crack down on it. Obviously, some of it is still getting through. You can't. I would say you can't stop it altogether, but you can obviously crack down and stop it and slow it down, shall we say, to a certain extent. But I've watched programs in the past of Australia's border force and the work that they do when it comes to this kind of stuff, and how they track and find this stuff, and it's very impressive. It's very, very impressive how they're able to do that. They are incredibly strict, so you really got to have everything. You got to really have yourself covered whenever you go and visit the country, from my understanding. But I could be wrong. Some people in the comments may disagree with me on that. But how do you feel about this, Ollie? Well, I know we haven't been to the country yet, so Ozzy said he's not a fan of Australia, and I say that when we haven't even been there, so I don't know why he feels that way about it. But there you go. Guys, we're about halfway through, just over the 30-minute mark, not counting the 5-minute intro. If you haven't already, please hit the like button, be greatly appreciated, and share us across social media so others are notified of this video. And subscribe, because it really does help support the channel. And we're going to break a little bit things up here for you guys, just before we go to the next article. Always, every time I like to do a video from Foil and Arms, and this one here, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this little funny one from them. The headline for it is "When Cheating is Harder Than Studying." Hope you guys enjoy.
How's it going? Do you want to take a break, have a kick about?
I'm up to my IELTS exam starting next week. So.
How's it going?
Yeah, not bad. I've got all the Macbeth quotes here on my arm. The maths equations are on this tissue, and I reprinted the label on this Lucasade bottle, so the ingredients now read the physics formulae.
You're cheating.
Yeah, what do you think I was doing up here all this time?
Studying?
No.
But you still have a week left.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I got to knuckle down. A lot of people leave cheating to the last minute, and let me tell you, it is just stress.
Well, you've taken the easy way out.
There's absolutely nothing easy about getting an entire Hamlet soliloquy inside an inhaler.
But you don't have asthma.
But I've the answer to question 2, part B.
Well, you're only cheating yourself,
No, I'm cheating the school, my classmates, the teacher, my parents, you.
Right, well, I'll leave you to it anyway.
Life is made of many partings welded together. What? Dickens, I need to know it for the English exam. I'm going to put it on the underside of this crisp.
But you do know it. You just quoted it to me.
Oh yeah, well I know it, but I don't know it.
It's just a confidence thing. Look, if you let me help you, I think you really nailed this exam.
You would do that?
Yes, of course.
Well, I mean, that'd be great. Maybe you could help me with the Martin Luther King quote, yeah?
Brilliant, let's go.
I need you to spray paint it onto the side of the school building opposite the exam hall.
What? I am not helping you cheat. I was just saying that if you study in pairs, it can be more effective.
Yeah, but I know that. I mean, that's why Gary's coming over later. We're going to work together for the French exam.
That's great.
We're learning sign language so we can communicate to each other answers across the room.
You're learning a language so as you don't have to learn a language.
When you say it like that, you make it sound ridiculous.
Because it is ridiculous. What? What does this mean? Are you sleeping?
No. I put calculus inside my eyelids. I'm just trying to find the best light to read it.
I've never heard of anyone going to greater efforts to avoid actual work.
Oh, hey, man.
Hey. Whoa, who the hell is this guy? You don't have a twin.
No, I found this guy in Spain. Yeah, he's going to sit my Spanish exam for me.
Tenemos que hablar de dinero.
Yeah, we'll talk about money later. No, I've already told you, shave the mustache.
Okay.
Quítate el bigote, por favor. I won't be much longer. All I've left is the chemistry formula.
Yeah, well, good luck with that.
Yeah, I don't have enough space left on my body, so I'm going to put them to one place. They'll never find them.
Where's that?
In here.
You're going to memorize them.
They'll never know.
Doom.
Oh, that was you're going out of your way to try and cheat, guys. Oh god. It is a bit of an old one, that one, if you haven't seen it. But yeah, do check out Foil and Arms and their YouTube channel, guys, to do some wonderful stuff there. But I hope you guys enjoyed that. A bit of fun there, guys. Just before we go to the next article, guys, I just want to remind you guys, if you haven't already considered, please consider becoming a YouTube member for as little as 99p. Being a YouTube member makes a massive difference, and you're directly financially supporting me in the work that I do here, and it really does make a massive difference to myself and Ollie. There is a lot of work, a lot of research done behind the scenes, guys, when it comes to doing the content that I do. So anyone who is able to do so is greatly appreciated. Becoming a YouTube member gets you access to custom emojis, which some of the guys in the Premier chat are gonna do right now as I'm saying this. And also, Whenever you comment on any of my videos as a YouTube member, regardless of what level you are, I always 99 out of 100 times reply to your comments. So you're normally 9 times out of 10 guaranteed a response from me. Also, as well, if you wanted to financially support me in other ways, the other ways you could do so is by buying me a coffee. The link is that in the description. I get a better percentage than in that. One of the other biggest percentage I can get of money from you guys is from Patreon. On Patreon, guys, you get access. If you sign up to Patreon, you can sign it up for free. You don't even have to be a paid member, but if you sign up for free, guys, and get access to additional content. So if the content on my channel is not enough for your suffice, you could always check out the Patreon as well. At the moment I'm dropping 3 videos a week for additional content in the UK, as well as doing some additional content for paid members. So if you want to sign up for that, do check it out and have a look and see for yourself, as well as doing exclusive content on Rumble, which you could also see that for free as well. So make sure you check out all the links in the description, guys, to keep in contact with me in many other ways, not just here, guys. So thank you for all of your support, guys. I greatly appreciate it. So moving on, that's not the right one. Hold on a second, just making sure I've got the right article. So the next one we got, guys, is from African News, and it's a very concerning one, to say the least. So a charity has said that more than 10 million Sudanese children have been in war zones, guys. So I've said before about how over 25 million Sudanese, and it's been reported, are in famine or struggling or comes to food and whatnot, and the continuous conflict between the Sudanese armed forces and the RSF, the Rapid Support Forces, has just been continuously going on. There was reports of some kind of talks to being taking place and mediated by Saudi Arabia and US in Cairo between the two sides, but I generally don't believe that anything is going to come of it. I really hope something will. That won't be for a while. My understanding is on that, but just on this is all the children that are living in the country. Yeah, 10 million of them, guys, who have been in this war zone. We're slowly reaching that 1 year anniversary of this conflict that has been taking place. One that you do not hear anywhere near enough about around the world. You don't hear enough of it from mainstream media. Yeah, you hear a lot about the war in Ukraine. You hear a lot about what's happening in Gaza, but you hear pennies drop when it comes to what's happening in Sudan. You don't hear anything what's happening in Myanmar as well as other conflicts that are taking place, because they're considered old news or because of where they are geography wise. And it's despicable that mainstream media don't highlight the devastation that is taking place here and in other places across the world, guys. And so this is obviously something that that's one of the things that really angers me about some of the media, is that they don't highlight some of the bigger issues that are taking place among the world. I do try to cover as much as I possibly can. I can't always cover everything, but when something is horrible with what's happening here in Sudan, I do feel compelled to try and cover it. So yeah, the headline from the charity is more than 10 million Sudanese children have been in war zones, guys. So more than 10 million children in Sudan have been in active war zones and less than 5 kilometers away from gunfire, shelling and other deadly violence over the past year of war, said Save the Children. Analysis by the Armed Conflict Location and Events Data Project on behalf of the charity found that 1 in 2 children in Sudan currently have been within 5 kilometers of the frontiers of the conflict. This is a 60% increase from the already 6.6 million children exposed to violence in the first month of the fighting, and shows how the conflict has continued to increase the scale and scope across the country. Many of the children have witnessed or suffered devastating injury, deaths, displacement, psychological harm, and the destruction of their homes and communities. Yeah, all these things it has a massive effect on children for the rest of their lives. If they even get to have a life from this. It's so soul destroying, so destructive, that we're talking about kids here. We're not even talking about women, men and women. We're talking about children, young children who are involved in this, who have no understanding of what's going on, don't understand why people are fighting. Some of them, God forbid, may be picking up a gun and worse come to worse, losing their homes and their families and communities that they've been a part of because of this war. Some of them so young they don't even understand it. 16-year-old Joisman, that's a fake name, is one of 4 million Sudanese children estimated to be displaced internally and across the border since the fighting broke out between the army and the paramilitary Rapid Support Force. She fled Sudan with her family in November last year and now lives with her mother in the Egyptian capital Cairo and studies at a school for refugees supported by Save the Children. The fighting was really tough. We never imagined that we would flee Sudan, she said. In Cairo, she enjoys playing football with her best friend at school, Hannah, who is also forced to flee Sudan. Joyman hopes to become a doctor to help people and treat those in need and dreams of returning to Sudan one day. Although she has fun studying with her friends, she remembers the good old days back home in Sudan with her family. I had my brother and some freedom, but here I only stay at home. We can only hope for God's help. There were a lot of challenges when I came to Egypt, she said. I do not believe I would go to school. We need books. We hardly found a home because rent is expensive. We have a lot of needs. We need bedding and things to use at home. We do not have much. But despite the challenges, she's one of the lucky ones. Millions of children in Sudan have been unable to go to school over the past year, don't have adequate food, and thousands are at risk of death and disease. Peter has been in has been in Egypt for 4 years, and this is his third year as head teacher at a school with welcomes refugee children from Sudan, South Sudan, Uganda, and Kenya. He says the suffering and displacement the children have experienced is impacting their behaviour. Because some become violent because of the violence they saw, others are extremely quiet, while others cannot focus on anything, and some are very sensitive and cry for anything. This fierce fighting continues to turn the lives of millions of children upside down. Save the Children says more must be done to protect them. Children in Sudan have suffered unimaginably, said Dr. Alif Noor, Sudan's country director for the charity. They have seen killings, massacres, bullet-limit streets, dead bodies and shelled homes while they live with the all-too-real fear that they themselves could be killed, injured and recruited to fight or subject to sexual violence, he said. Noor says no children should have to go through what those in Sudan have been experiencing. Understandably, none of the names are real for obvious reasons, guys. Yeah. That is the stark reality of what's happening in Sudan and what's happened to these children who have been able to get out and try to relive new lives in Egypt or in other places, wherever they may be. These have the mental effect, the scars of the war will never be shaken off them. Never, because of what's happening here. And still to this day, guys, I'm so angry with both the generals because they are the ones who started this. They started this based on the history. When the country was so close for a civilized democratic government. Instead, both of them tried to seize power instead. And now the country is suffering because of it. Greedy is what those generals are. And people continue to suffer. And no one's talking about it again. I keep saying it, guys, but no one's talking about it. It's really, really infuriating, to say the least, guys. So this next one I got for you guys is from the New York Times. Just before I highlight this, obviously, the reason I haven't been covering much of here and the world's news round on Israel and Gaza or many shorts is because I'm covering it this on a premiere coming up on the weekend if anyone wants to know why. But I will come around to it. But this one I really wanted to have a look at from the New York Times. An interesting one to say the least. So the headline is, before he died in prison, Aleksei Navalny wrote a memoir, and it's coming this fall. In the book, Navalny tells his story in his own words, chronologically in his life, his rise as an opposition leader, and the attempts on his life. I would love to read that book. That would be very fascinating, to say the least, to kind of understand the mindset of Aleksei Navalny before he sadly lost his life. Very intrigued to read these memoirs. So during the years leading up to his death in Russian prison, Aleksei Navalny, the Russian opposition leader, was writing a memoir about his life and co-workers as a pro-democracy activist. Titled Patriot, the memoir will be published in the United States by Konov on October the 22nd, with the first printing of 500,000 copies and a stimulus released in multiple countries. Navalny, who rose to global prominence as a fierce critic of President Vladimir Putin of Russia, resisted the Kremlin's repeated attempts to silence him through the physical harms, arrests, and imprisonments in a remote Arctic penal colony where he died in February at the age of 47. The book, telling his own story in his own words, comes as a final show of defiance. His widow, Yulia Navalny, said in a statement, and could have galvanizing effects on his followers. This book is a testament not only to Aleksei's life, but to his unwavering commitment to the fight against dictatorship, a fight he gave everything, including his life, Navalny said. Through its pages, readers will come to know the man I love deeply, a man of prolonged integrity and unyielding courage. Sharing his story will only honour his memory, but also inspire others to stand up for what is right and to never lose sight of the value that truly matters. They will try to get this smuggled into Russia one way or another, and Russia are going to have a hard time stopping this book getting into the hands of Russian people. The death of Aleksei Navalny, the anti-corruption activist who led the political opposition in President Vladimir Putin's Russia, died in Russian prison. He was 47. These are just other news stories relating to it there. In a news release, In a news release, Klump said that the memoirs express Navalny's total conviction that change cannot be resisted and will come. Navalny wrote the entire memoir himself, dictating some parts, and Yuva Navarida is working with the publisher to edit and finalize the manuscript. According to Konov's representatives, the book has already been translated into 11 languages. Navarro wrote on X, and a Russian language edition of the book will be available. I'm not surprised that would be, but obviously getting it into Russia might be a bit difficult. The project is more sensitive in Dura than most memoirs by high-profile political figures. Navarro supports and his team, which has carried out his work, continue to draw the scrutiny of the Russian authorities as a direct criticism at the Kremlin against the backdrop of the war in Ukraine. Navalny began working on his memoir in 2020 after surviving a near-fatal poisoning with a nerve agent, an attack that Western intelligence officials believe was a state-sponsored assassination attempt. The book covers his youth, his rise as a political activist, his marriage and family, his political career as an opposition leader, and the attempts on his life and the attacks on those close to him, according to the publisher. Navalny had political aspirations but was barred from a presidential run following a conviction on fraud charges by a Russian court. Widely seen as politically motivated, he exerted his political influence in other ways, organising protests against Putin and building offices and investigation teams across the country to uncover corruption. Navalny wrote much of the memoir while he was in Germany and recovering from the poison. In February 2021, he returned to Russia knowing he would be likely to be detained or attacked again. He was arrested at the airport and was later charged with embezzlement and fraud in a trial the international observers conclude was also politically motivated. In August 2023, he was charged with extremism and given a 19-year sentence. His harsh treatment in Russia's severe penal colonies include the lack of medical care and many stints in solitary confinement. Addressing why he chose to go back to Russia to face almost certain imprisonment and possible death, Navalny said remaining in exile felt like a betrayal of his cause. I don't want to give up either my country or my beliefs, Navalny wrote in a Facebook post in January. Shortly before his death, I cannot betray either the first or the second. If your beliefs are worth something, you must be willing to stand up for them and, if necessary, make some sacrifices. Navalny returned to Russia led to weeks of protests around the country, but were eventually squashed by a fierce crackdown by the Kremlin. Even as Russia was shut down or driven away independent news and media outlets and silenced many of the internal critics in an effort to smooth political opposition, Navalny remained a vocal and influential figure who came to embody the country's beleaguered pro-democracy movement. Navalny maintained a presence on social media, even behind bars, and remained a furious critic of Putin. His team, which was living and working in exile, continued to release exposures on corruption in Russia. He kept working on a book, which includes never-before-seen correspondence from prison, according to the publisher. Within thousands of his followers gathering for his funeral, despite the risk of being arrested by Russian authorities, outside the church at the outskirts of Moscow, where the service was held, the people in the crowd chanted phrases like "Love is stronger than fear. Thank you, Aleksei." Even after his death, those who seek to carry out on Navalny's work and extend his legacy face threats and attacks last month. Leonid Volkov, who served as one of Navalny's top organizers, was attacked with a hammer and tear gas outside his home in Lithuania's capital. Navalny is well aware that his activism put him at risk, but remained cheerfully defiant, in a wary prankster-like persona that drives some of his viral online activism. I try not to think about it a lot, he said in an interview with CBS News in 2017. If you start to think about what kind of risks I have, you cannot do anything. He fought and died for what he believed in, and he knew guys, he knew when he was going to go back to Russia that he was going to face imprisonment and probably never see the light of day. And it's horrible to say the least, guys. He didn't deserve that. He fought for what he believed in, he generally did. And it's a very sad state of affairs, to say the least, guys. But his legacy will live on, and hopefully Russia will be freed and be able to make its own destiny and choice soon. And I say soon. Hopeful of that. Do you agree, Ollie? Yeah. Yeah, Ollie agrees. Ollie thinks that Russia will have its voice again for its people and its own choices. I hope so too. I generally hope so too, guys. So the next one I've got for you guys is the last one. I do have funny memes for you guys, just in case you're wondering. I do have the funny memes. So the only difference is obviously it's not live for you guys. That's the only downside, but which is a shame. So I can't respond to you guys in the comments, and I do apologise for that. So this last one is from Retroids, guys. The headline is Russia, Germany, UK urge restraint on Iran's threats, puts the Middle East on edge. This is a very concerning, to say the least. So this was last updated today in the morning, early morning as well. I don't blame Iran for feeling what they're feeling. I take that back. They're obviously trying to keep Iran calm is very, very difficult, considering the atrocities that are being caused by Israel on Hamas. It's very hard to do so. And so many other conflicts taking place in and around the Middle East. It's very, very difficult, to say the least. Trying to restrain Iran is almost near to next impossible. I'm not sure how they're going to do this. But urging restraint when they could just simply ignore it any time they really want to. But they're already like this. We know they're supplying the Houthis in the rebel Houthis in Yemen, causing the damage in the Red Sea with regards to ships going through trying to get through, straying through the Suez Canal, damaging world trade supplies because of what's happening there. We know that they've been obviously trying to help weaponize and help Hamas with what's happening in the Gaza Strip. They are somehow trying to get them there, as well as other resistance in other pockets in Afghanistan as well, and Syria. So their influence is vast and wide, Iran, and it's not looks like I feel like there's a things are already hot. Things are already quite tense already in the Middle East, and it's just like it's ready to explode at any moment, guys. It really does feel that way whenever we talk about stuff around the Middle East. So Russia, Germany and Britain on Thursday urged countries in the Middle East to show restraint, and Israel said it was preparing to meet all its security needs in a region on edge over Iranian threat to strike Israel. The German airline Lufthansa, one of the only two Western carriers flying to Tehran, extended a suspension on its flights to the Iranian capital, and Russia warned against travelling to the Middle East. The fact that Russia are saying this as well is quite a bit odd, I will say. Iran has vowed revenge for the April 1st airstrike on its embassy compound in Damascus that killed a top Iranian general and 6 other Iranian military officers, ratcheting up tension in a region already strained by the Gaza war. Israel has not claimed responsibility for the attack, but Iranian Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei said on Wednesday that Israel must be punished, and it shall be, saying it was a tantamount to an attack on Iranian soil. The imperative... What's this video play? The imperative for Iran to push its rogue regime might have been avoided, and had the UN Security Council condemned the strikes and brought the perpetrators to justice. Tehran's mission to the United States said on Thursday. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said Israel was keeping up its war in Gaza but making security preparations elsewhere. Whoever harms us, we will harm them. We are prepared to meet all of the security needs of the state of Israel, both defensively and offensively, he said in comments released following a visit to the Air Force base. Iran has signaled to Washington that it will respond to Israeli attacks in a way that aims to avoid major escalation, and it will not act hastily, Iranian sources said. Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant told U.S. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin that Israel would respond directly to any attack by Iran, Galland's office said. Conflict has spread across the Middle East since its eruption of the Gaza War, with Iran-backed groups declaring support for the Palestinians waging attacks in Lebanon, Yemen and Iraq. Tehran has avoided direct confrontation with Israel or the United States while declaring its support for its allies. German Foreign Minister Annalena Baerbock called on her Iranian counterpart Hossein to urge maximum restraint to avert further escalation. Russian Foreign Ministry has told civilians they should not travel to the Middle East, especially to Israel, Lebanon and the Palestinian territories. Right now, it's very important for everyone to maintain restraint as to not lead to a complete destabilization of the situation in the region, which doesn't exactly shine with stability and predictability, a Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov told a news briefing. Britain's Foreign Minister David Cameron said on Thursday that he made clear to Abu I can't say that word, sorry guys, that Iran should not draw the Middle East into wider conflict. I'm deeply concerned about the potential for miscalculation leading into further violence, Cameron said on X. US State Department spokesperson Matthew Miller said Secretary of State Antony Blinken called counterparts, including the Turkish, Chinese and Saudi foreign ministers, to make clear that escalation is not in anyone's interest and that countries should urge Iran not to escalate. US President Joe Biden said on Wednesday that Iran was threatening to launch a significant attack in Israel, and that he had told Netanyahu that our commitment to Israel's security against these threats from Iran and its proxies is ironclad. The US expects an attack by Iran against Israel, but no one would be big enough to draw Washington into a war, a US official said later on Thursday. The US military said on Thursday that it had destroyed anti-ship ballistic missiles from an area of Yemen controlled by the Iranian-backed Houthi militia. No injuries or damage were reported to the US coalition of merchant vessels. Iran is the third largest oil producer of the OPEC group, and oil prices stayed near 6 months high on Thursday. Late on Wednesday, an Iranian news agency published an Arabic report on the X platform saying the airspace over Tehran had been closed for military drills, but then removed the report and denied it had issued such news. So they're doing military drills and not telling anyone about it, even though they weren't supposed to. Lithuania said it's probably not to fly to Tehran before April the 13th. Austrian Airlines said it's still planning to fly on Thursday, but was adjusting timings to avoid crew having to disembark for an overnight layover. Iranian airspace is also a key overflight route for Emirates and Qatar Airways flights to Europe and North America. Emirates, Qatar Airways, Turkish Airlines, Aeroflot and Air Arabia, among the airlines that fly to Tehran, did not immediately respond to requests for comment. That's interesting. That whether or not they're going to continue to do their flights or not, I don't think they will. I don't think eventually, if Iran starts getting into these wars themselves, they have a lot of separatist-backed groups that they are using within the country to stir the pots in their interest, rather than themselves going directly in direct conflict. But it's entirely possible that Iran may change their position on that as tension continues to increase from what's happening in the Middle East, especially what's happening within Gaza, which is why the West needs to apply more pressure on Israel to stop the conflict there. But I'll talk more about that on the Snowflake conflict with regards to Gaza, because it really does need to something needs to give there, because too much is at stake here. But Russia, Germany, UK, America, everyone sees what's happening in the Middle East and knows that if something doesn't give soon, it's just a matter of time before full-blown conflict could take place. Saudi Arabia could find themselves in direct conflict with Iran as well. We know the history there. It's entirely possible. Not just Iran with Israel. We have to bear these in mind. There are still lots and lots. There are conflicts taking place out. Not everybody's talking about the conflict in Gaza, but there are lots of skirmishing and fightings as well. Like I said, the Houthis in Yemen. There is multiple factions in Afghanistan and in Syria. Lots of conflicts conflicts and skirmishes taking place between different factions there as well. Some backed by Saudi Arabia, some backed by Iran, some backed by Israel, some backed by the US. All sorts conflicts are taking place there. So it's been anything but peaceful in the Middle East, and there needs to be restraint put in as soon as possible. That is for sure, guys. So just before we wrap things up, guys, I do apologise for this is not live, but I hope you guys enjoy the funny memes. I'm just about to give for you guys. Are you looking forward to the funny memes, Ollie? What's that? Yes, you are. Oh, good. I know how much you look forward to the funny memes. He likes the funny memes. He's just, the only thing is obviously this isn't live, so he's not happy about this not being a live show. But I am sorry. Such is life, guys. Such is life. It's not intentional. Or we'll be back. I'm sure we'll be back with a live show next week. I think. Not 100% confirmed on that. But I will let you guys know in advance. Anyway, here are the five memes I've got for you guys today. I hope you guys enjoy. The biggest scam in history. Just give you a moment to realise what this is. When your boss tells a terrible joke, but you really need a raise. If animals took selfies and posted on Facebook, about to eat this idiot. #blessed. Saw a pigeon having a job interview earlier. I hope he got it. A very, very intense job interview, guys. Normally job interviews are in offices, but looks like they're having this one out in the public. Which sometimes they do. Sometimes job interviews do, but hopefully the pigeon got the job, whatever that job is. I imagine it involves stealing food from a fast food chain of some sorts, but let's hope it did come that way for the pigeon. We'll have to wait and see, obviously. But yes, guys. So I hope you guys enjoyed the funny memes. Just want to say a massive thank you to everyone who's come along today. Thank you all for your comments. If you did any gifted memberships or super chats and whatnot, thank you for them. I do apologise if I'm once again for not doing a live stream, but at least I had a show for you guys here. But what do you guys think of the stories we covered today, from Poland's abortion laws, China and Taiwan, what's happening with Mexican drug cartel, Sudan and the charities calling on the crisis of so many children, the damage that's being told? What are you guys' thoughts on Aleksei Navalny and a book coming out later this year? I'm very excited to see that book, actually, if I'm generally honest. And about many nations uniting in basically calling for tensions to ease in Middle East, guys. Let me know your thoughts about all these stories and more in the comments section down below. But just before you go, guys, if you haven't already, please hit the like button, be greatly appreciated. Share this across social media so others are notified of this video, as Ollie is looking there. And subscribe, because it really does help support the channel. And if you want to go one step further and financially support me in the work I do here, you can do so by becoming a YouTube member for as little as 99p, or join me on Rumble or Patreon for exclusive content there as well. So thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to catch you all very, very soon.